Obviously, I'm a Yankees fan, so I'd love to see him.
It's almost like legacy of like the NFL versus.
But I definitely think that Baker could be a really good player for the Panthers moving forward.
Did I say Oreos?
There's a lot of questions I have about Mahomes. Looks like a kid playing Madden.
Turning point in the game is the 13-second drive.
They play very hard, even though they're terrible.
He's a good pick. You for sure. He's going to be a good player. But I can't argue against the Ja'Marr Chase pick.
They made moves saying we're going to win this year, at least get into the playoffs.
I'm going with my guy, Corey Seager. So glad.
What's good, y'all? My name is Austin Drama, and I play rugby for the University of Notre Dame. And you're listening to The Outsider's Opinion with Austin and Kevin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NFL Opinions of the Week. This is an ever-changing list of our head coaching openings rankings because one opened up, one closed today with the Dolphins hiring Jeff Hafley from the Packers. Hafley. To be their head coach, and then the Bills fired Sean McDermott. But we are ranking them, and we'll start with the worst, Austin. I'll get this one out of the way. I'm saying the Cleveland Browns because of the quarterback situation tied with Deshaun Watson. You have Shedeur, even though you have Myles Garrett, which is a plus. But I think if this was just
wait. Didn't you say a couple months ago that the Raiders was the worst job?
Well, so I've changed a little bit on the Raiders.
Okay.
Because they have the number one overall pick. That kind of helps solve your quarterback. I think the Browns to me would be higher if they didn't have like someone in place that's not good and you can't get rid of them.
Yeah, the Browns are the worst, and I have the Raiders as they're 7, right? Right. Yeah.
Yeah, they're 7, so yeah, they would be 6. Browns are 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
Both of those jobs I do think are wildly the worst. Like, it's not even that close in my opinion, because there's still some question marks with the Raiders outside of QB once you draft Mendoza at 1. So I don't think it's still clear. Obviously, you have Genty, but the O-line is atrocious. One of the worst O-lines in the league, especially run blocking wise. Your wide receivers are non-existent. You have a good tight end, a great tight end. Your defense has Max Crosby, who now hates the organization, and no one else on defense is really all that good. So there's a lot of question marks to answer.
Yeah, so they do have a lot of question marks, but to me, you have that number one overall pick. Most likely, you get Mendoza.
Is that your 6?
No, they're in my top 3.
Oh wow! Okay, you and I disagree.
Yeah, I figure we're gonna differ. We might differ on the top 3 entirely, but my 6 is the Cardinals because yes, they're probably not gonna have Kyler Murray, but there is that issue of the money.
They can trade Kyler.
They could, but there might still be. They keep some of that money, and then I think you have someone tied there, and then the defenses. You do have some playmakers on defense, but I think it's to me that offense and just kind of figuring it out while figuring out the Kyler Murray situation.
Yeah, I like the Cardinals' job a little bit more than you do. My number 5 is the Steelers. Steelers are a team that does not have a QB for the future. We don't know what's going to happen with Rodgers. Sure, they have T.J. Watt. They have Cam Hayward. They have some good players. But their offense still has a bunch of question marks. Obviously, DK has got himself suspended, and there's other stuff that's happened. I do think that there's a concern also with everybody else on the defense being so old. I mean, Darius Slay was there for a little bit. He got – I don't even know if he finished the season with them. But also you have Jalen Ramsey, who's really old. You have a lot of very old players. Cam Hayward, again, very old. T.J. Watt is getting up there in age. And the expectations, again, being a Steelers coach is very difficult, but they don't have the allure of a Bills or Ravens because you don't have the QB. So not only is it a tough role to take on because of either past history or recent history, there's also the concern that you don't really have a guy at the helm right now that you know will be there for the future.
Yeah, you and I are in complete agreement. Pittsburgh is my 5 as well for all the reasons you mentioned. There is no quarterback situation. You're going to have to draft a quarterback or you're going to have to go back to the 1-year market. Defensively, they're all aging. and it makes it very difficult to build around, especially when you don't have a high pick in this upcoming draft.
Yeah. I'll go to my 4, though. My 4 is the Cardinals. I know you had them at 5.
Or 6.
6. You had 6. Yeah, I don't really see that because they have the good pick this year, and they also could trade Kyler. And I think Kyler's worth something. He's been a Pro Bowler. I think somebody's going to see something in him. Maybe it is the Steelers. Maybe it's a team that wants to try to contend at some level this year. Maybe it's the Texans if you don't believe in CJ Stroud and you see what happens there. But I do think that Kyler is going to get a decent trade offer, and you wouldn't have to keep too much of the money. And also, you have a good pick this year. You also have Trey McBride. I like their offensive talent with Marvin Harrison and also Michael Wilson. I like Trey Benson. We'll see what happens with James Conner after his gruesome ankle injury. But I actually kind of like the Cardinals' job. Who's your 4?
My 4 is the Tennessee Titans, because you do have Cam Ward, you do have that defense, but it's kind of figuring out the offense and kind of managing expectations with the number 1 overall pick. And I have it lower than the Raiders because I feel like Mendoza is better out of the gate than Ward. I think Ward
was really good this year. I think he's been extremely underrated because of how bad his wide receiver room is. Also really like, we can go into my 3. My 3 is the Titans. I know we did a video recently about what job would you take, and the Titans were my first. Now, if we're just talking about job openings, I don't think they're the best job opening, but it would be the one I'd want to take. It would be first on my board because, again, those expectations. But also, I believe a lot in Cam Ward. Their D-line is amazing. And like I said, the expectations aren't high. And I believe you can succeed relatively quickly. And again, their D-line is insane. I mean, Jeffrey Simmons, T'Vondre Sweat. I mean, they have guys that want to be there, that are good in a lot of their positional groups. Tony Pollard had another 1,000-yard season this year. Tyjae Spears is getting better. While their wide receiver room isn't great, it still has a lot of young guys that are getting better. So I do really like their situation, and having a good pick helps that as well.
Yeah, it does, and I can see the argument for that. My 3 is the Raiders because you have that number 1 overall pick. Yes, there are a lot of problems, but if you do go Mendoza and Genty, I think that can really help. You can have an offense with Genty, Mendoza, and Bowers, and that can give you some time to hit on other draft picks for.
But you have 0 O-line. I don't know how you get the ball to anybody when you have no time, and also you can't run the ball because your O-line is also terrible.
I think there are ways you can scheme it enough to where you do okay, and then you may go sign and draft guys. Kind of like what the Bears did this year. You trade for Joe Thuney. You also had drafted years prior offensive linemen. I do think a coach can help get your most out of the linemen you have.
Okay. My 2 is the Ravens. I know it's going to be Ravens and Bills for both of us. I'm interested to see which one you have as higher. I had the Ravens at 2, though, just because of the timeline is shorter, in my opinion. Not only because Lamar's already been in trade talks and his the organization, I don't know how they feel about Lamar right now, but also because of Derrick Henry's age and how bad the rest of the offense is outside of Derrick Henry and Lamar. Sure, I like Mark Andrews, I like Isaiah Likely, but their wide receiver room is horrible. At least with the Bills, I like Khalil Shakir. I like some of their other receiving threats, and I think that they have a better immediate future. And again, I don't know what happens with Derrick Henry. Again, his age is already an anomaly with the Ravens and playing that well, but you don't know how long it's going to happen. I mean, it's not going to be forever, right? So I think there's a lot of concern regarding the Ravens moving forward, but still having an MVP caliber QB is a very alluring job. The Ravens have proven to be an organization that likes stability, and that's true with the Bills as well. I think the only difference between these teams is that the Derrick Henry contract, because I don't know when he's going to start regressing. And then I think the Bills are a little bit better on defense right now. Barely, but it's not like a crazy difference between the two. I think both of those being 1 or 2 is makes a lot of sense. It's just I'm nitpicking a little bit, and that's why I prefer the Bills job a little bit more.
You and I are in the same agreement. To me, the Ravens are appealing in there at 2 because you have Lamar Jackson. But when you compare it to the Bills, the supporting cast for the Bills is better. You have James Cook, who's younger. You mentioned Khalil Shakir. I also like their defense. I like Rousseau and Ed Oliver. I know he's getting up in age, but I really like Deion Walker coming out of the draft, and he's a guy that can fill in. And they're a team that can just get a lot more pressure. The Ravens have that history of defense, but they struggled this year, and there were moments last year where they struggled. So to me, there is a lot more work immediately for the Ravens to fill that timeline of being good. You also mentioned Derrick Henry's age, but Lamar is why you're at 2 because it's like, okay, I have an MVP candidate. What can I do with him? Okay, I need to build around him. Bills, there are already pieces in place around your MVP candidate.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I think that there's a better structure around him.
Yeah. And it's just kind of, you just need to get someone there. I am curious kind of who they select and be higher because they're going to have lofty expectations and just someone that can get them over the hump.
Yeah. I mean, expectations for both of these are going to be huge, which would be the reason why I don't take them. But I do think that both of these teams with an MVP candidate are going to give themselves a chance to have a really good head coach come in because, again, it's a very alluring job.
And not many jobs like this open up in the NFL.
Yeah, that's completely true.
So let us know your...
All right, just say, I don't think jobs and MVP candidates on your team happen in their prime really ever.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I really can't think of one. And it's usually, okay, we need to build an MVP candidate, not like, hey, he's ready for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think the last time you had an MVP candidate who was a head coach.
This may help just because I read his book, Tony Dungy and Peyton Manning.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, but is there one since then?
Like, would you count Todd Bowles and Tom Brady?
No.
Okay.
Because Bruce Arians, well, you know what? I think that does that count? Does that count?
Because I think
that it doesn't really count because it wasn't really a head coaching opening. It wasn't like they didn't have guys they were interviewing. I'm pretty sure Brady and Bruce Arians said sign Todd Bowles.
Or the Packers, Matt LaFleur.
Okay, with McCarthy?
McCarthy. Yeah, when McCarthy was fired.
Yeah, that's the last one. Because, again, I wouldn't count Bowles, not because it wasn't an MVP candidate job, but it's because Bowles was the guy always. Like, they decided it was going to be Bowles a long time before that.
Yeah. Yeah, no. But, yeah, no, the Packers are the last scenario with LaFleur.
Yep, you're right.
Yep. All right. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We appreciate you listening to Outsiders Opinions.